Do you ever finish all your tasks and still feel tense and anxious? Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica Vartanian, licensed marriage and family therapist, and today I'll be answering some of the more commonly asked or searched questions about anxiety or burnout among high achievers. So let's dive right in. So our first question is, why do I feel anxious even after completing everything on my to-do list? Well, there might be a couple of different reasons for that. First, if you're experiencing some sort of perfectionism-based anxiety and stress, the message behind perfectionism is like whatever I'm doing is never enough or it's never good enough. So even though we're checking off stuff on our to-do list, like it feels like it's, we're checking it off and it feels good in the moment, but long term, if we're constantly carrying that kind of critical thought that I'm not doing enough or I'm not good enough, then at some point those things, as much as it might be satisfying in the moment, in the short term, in the longer run or the bigger picture, it might not be as satisfying. Another reason that might happen, and it varies from person to person, of course, this might not be resonating with everyone that's watching this video, but sometimes in our upbringing, like based on our experiences and the maybe high stress environment or stressors that we were under, sometimes we might have gotten some messaging that what we were doing was never enough, or even when we got things done, it just wasn't enough for the other person, right? So if we're thinking about childhood, sometimes parents might be giving you tasks to do, but you didn't do it the right way or the way they wanted to, or were thinking or imagining it. So even though you technically did the task, it might not have met someone's expectations or standards. So it still feels like this lingering, not enough or good enough feeling. And when that's still there, it's really hard to feel like what we're doing matters or is valuable in the long run. So if for some of us, maybe many of us might have experienced some version of that, some sort of variety of that, and the body and the nervous system kind of get used to it. Like the brain gets used to hearing that kind of feedback and maybe criticism or scolding or judgment. And the nervous system then starts anticipating that, right? So when the body felt it and experienced it, didn't feel good. So even though the circumstances and the environment might have changed and we don't have that kind of scolding parents anymore or teachers anymore, the nervous system still remembers that. Like the body, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. So essentially, even though time has gone on, things have changed, the body still experiences things as if it's happening in the past. So those reaction and stress and anxiety you might have had in anticipation of someone's feedback to you about getting your work done or the way you got it done, your body's still holding on to that. So even in the present, when you're getting things done, it's still remembering those times where there was those kind of like harsh feedback or criticism. So that might possibly explain some of that stress and anxiety we still feel even when we're checking it off on our to-do list. Okay, so the good news is that mental health resources like therapy is going to help us get and dive into those past experiences where we might have gone through those, belief systems and messages from the people around us that we were doing is not good enough or is not enough or is anticipating some sort of harsh criticism, and retrain and rewire our nervous system and brain to know that it's in the present now and we have control over our situation, whereas maybe as a kid we didn't. We were kind of stuck in that position, but that's not the case anymore. So we really want to help our brain catch up to the present so it feels more in control. Okay, so our next question is, how can I tell if my burnout is a symptom of perfectionism or something deeper? I think that's a great valid question and pretty relevant, especially for our high achievers or overachieving perfectionists. So again, really good question, because we want to be able to distinguish that, because once we can distinguish the symptoms, then it helps us figure out what we can do or can benefit from doing to get out of those experiences, right? So I think one of those common experiences that people want to be maybe considerate of or have questions about rather is when I'm experiencing burnout versus depression, for example. So one way to look at it is burnout tends to be more of a short-term experience or more like based off of, let's say, work. You could feel burnout from work. But when we're experiencing depression or clinical depression based on diagnoses, it tends to be more of a longer-term basis and more all-encompassing, like other parts of life. It's not so much like negativity, let's say, with only work, but it's like this overarching belief system about, work and life and personal life and professional life, whatever it may be. It tends to kind of over encompass all of that. Okay, so a good way to kind of understand maybe what we're experiencing is when, or maybe that kind of sign of what is it that you're experiencing that kind of gives it away, is when we're taking a break from work. Let's say we're going on a vacation for a week or two. Are we able to actually enjoy being in that space, or are we still kind of in that mood of being depressed and negative and not fully enjoying it and being in the moment and being present, right? When we're taking time off of work or whatever it is that's giving us burnout, do we feel like ourselves and recharge again and all that good stuff, right? Or are we still kind of in the space of, things aren't going well, life is bad, or there's nothing positive to look out for or think about? Those are usually the clues that tell us if it's burnout or something a little deeper. Again, good news is there's solutions for both of these, right? So depending on what you're experiencing, there's going to be tools and strategies in place, especially if it's something that you're noticing like is clinical depression. That's where like mental health resources like therapy is going to be really helpful for you to learn where it's coming from, where it's stemming from, what it looks like, and then individualized treatment to be able to support you through that, so you can know how to manage it or overcome those experiences and symptoms. Okay, so our next question: how does my identity as a high achiever affect my mental health? That's another great question. Oh my goodness, I like it a lot. So if we were praised and recognized or admired or respected or whatever positive feeling we got out of being this high achiever, this person who, meets expectations or surpasses them even, and we got a lot of, kudos and good job and just attention, like positive attention, then the brain kind of gets used to that and it just reinforces that behavior. So we kind of turn to ignore ourselves and our well-being, for that matter, just to kind of go after that chase and that good feeling, rather, that we got when we got those positive feedbacks. So one way that identity of high achiever affects our mental health is through that. Like sometimes we forget about taking care of ourselves or bringing ourselves down to the present and just taking steps one at a time versus feeling we have to do it all and do it perfectly. Because when we did it all and did it perfectly, again, there was a lot of reward and positive reinforcement, at least most of the time that happens. That's the kind of society and culture we're in. And when that feels good, and that's what the brain and the nervous system got used to, it naturally kind of tries to gravitate towards getting and receiving that feeling at the expense of our sleep, our health, our relaxation, and our body doesn't get a chance to feel calm, so it might not even know what it would be like to be calm or how to get there and get to that space. So to answer that question, that's typically how that identity of being high achiever can affect our mental health. Good news is being a high achiever is not your identity. It's a part of your identity, but it is not entirely who you are. You're worth way more than any achievement and success you have accomplished, right? So you are enough as you are. Those are just little bonuses and extra kind of sprinkles to your life. But again, it's not your identity, just a small part of your life. Okay. And if you are that high achiever who is pondering and questioning, who am I outside this achievement? Know that you're not alone. That is very common experience among high achievers. So again, a place like mental health therapy, individual one-on-one work with a mental health professional can help you explore that and understand it and get back to who you are beneath all of those external accomplishments. Okay, so our last question: why do I feel guilty for resting or taking time off? Again, a very, very common experience among those high-achieving, overachieving professionals. So again, a lot of this is going to go back to how the messages that your brain and nervous system received and the positive reinforcements. If you got a lot of praise for not taking care of yourself and prioritizing everything else around you and in those accomplishments, and that was seen as the good thing and the best thing, that's what you're supposed to be and should be doing, then anything we're doing like outside of that and different than that, it's just gonna, the brain is gonna interpret as, oh, this is wrong and this is something bad and I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah, this is wrong and that doesn't feel good. So that's typically a common experience and one reason that might come from. And another reason why, if we're going into the deeper childhood experiences that some of us might have grew up in those environments where we did rest and take time off and breaks, for example, but that didn't sit well with the people around us. Maybe they wanted to see us constantly working and producing for different reasons. Then the nervous system learned that, again, it's not safe or it's not okay to be resting and taking time off. Either one of those experiences easily can unlearn that as well. Just like, again, anything else in therapy, if that was our experience, it does not have to stay that way. If those were the messages received and belief system we developed, it does not have to stay that way. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful. If there's anything else I can answer, please feel free to drop it down in the comments below and I can make another video like this. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.